what created that sort of a pull in Stratton? Was it the power? Was it the money? Was it the high fives at the end of the night with like?
It's drugs
and
hot women are awesome.
So
I'd be like, you know, I think, and they say that, you know, Scorsese glamorized drug use. No, drug use, it's glamorous. Like, in other words, like, you're lying to yourself if you say, oh, going out and banging hot chicks and getting high and going wild, it's fun.
Yeah. So this is my question, because I think a lot of people, when they see things, they feel superior to them till they're in the situation. So they look at, you know, slave owners back in the day and they go, I would never do that. It's like, well, if I dropped you down there, unless you're doing something today that's
defined by the
wildly
culture
different,
in which you live.
If you don't defy today's society, then you probably wouldn't have defied that one. And the Stratton society, to some degree, was this. So my question is, I guess, if I want to be one of those 5, right, who's not going to get, what's the first thing that like starts the slippery slope? Is it the Quaaludes? Is it just joining the firm?
The Quaaludes always starts the slippery slope.
So, like, yeah, how
once you
can
take the first loot, any behavior will be acceptable.
And how do you get these people who maybe didn't come in using hard drugs to be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the process that takes someone from, I would never cheat on my wife, to, yeah, of course I'm going to hook up with escorts every single week. Like, what drags them there? You know what I'm saying?
Number one, we covet what we see. So whatever's in front of you, it's like what's happening around you. You start to, you know, want it, and also it starts to seem normal.
Mm-hmm.
See, what happens, and you brought this up, it's a very good point you brought up, is that within the 4 walls of the boardroom, what was abnormal behavior on the outside seemed perfectly normal.
Right.
I remember being so deluded at one point that my wife and I drove, my second wife now, the one from the movie, the blonde, we were driving in our car home in these huge mansions in Locust Valley, and we're looking around, like, everyone must do Quaaludes, right? And you couldn't be going through the world sober.
Sure.
Now, the truth is most of them are wasps drinking scotch, you know, just to go through life. But the point is that you actually start to convince yourself that everyone is doing what you're doing.
So the most dangerous thing someone could do is come into the firm, see everyone else doing it, and think, I'll work here for the money, but I won't do that. The only way to really protect yourself from it is to see the drug use, the cheating, and go, if I don't want to do this, I should not be in these 4 walls. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, that's certainly the safest way, is to not even be around people. Yeah. But let's imagine if the culture was revolting, but there was nothing illegal going on.
Sure.
So you have a family and you're broke and you see everyone's making $2-3 million a year. No one's breaking the law, but they're freaking wild.
Sure.
What do you do? Do you walk away, or do you have an obligation to your family to make that money to secure their future? Can you be strong enough? It's a more complex equation than that. Sure. So take the illegality out of it for a second, right? Let's just assume it was legal. So it's really just, am I strong enough? I would doubt any person would not take the job. Almost anyone would take the job thinking they're strong enough.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And, you know, again, a lot of it had to do, there was many factors involved. Like, you know, who were the 5? What made up that community? I can tell you about them, you know. I can picture them right now, who they were, just vaguely, a few of them at least, right? One was they were not the typical alpha male type to start. They weren't particularly good looking. You understand? They wouldn't.
Sure,
They were not the sort that would be consorting with women for whatever reason, like that. That would be one thing for sure. B, they were in very happy, secure relationships with people. They were in a great relationship and they just were simply very happy, and they were mature enough to resist. And then there were others that, you know, just simply were anti-drug. There were some people that just don't do drugs, right? Mm-hmm. So that was really in that group of 5 people or so, maybe 7, whatever it is, right? But I think the big one is they walked into it so not that type. I think the problem is if you have those predispositions, like it's like almost like, you know, cancer. Well, how does cancer form? Cancer forms, there's all these carcinogens around. We all get exposed, but only some people get cancer. So, you know, look at Stratton as being the carcinogen of all the insanity.
Sure. Yeah, 90% will develop cancer. 90% will develop cancer,
but 10% are resistant because they just don't have the predisposition to cancer. So these people did not have the predisposition to corruption, moral corruption, right? And they did, you know? And also, by the way, you know, What's so bad about, if you're a single guy, what's so bad about banging a lot of girls and banging a few hookers and doing a few drugs? I'm being, seriously, what's so terrible about it if you're, because I'm saying take away the illegal behavior, like that no one's losing money. Yeah. If it's just like that you're partying and you're making money, all right, well, you're young, come on, you know? I mean, people have been doing that since the beginning of time. I'm not saying you should, you know, you have to be careful, it's a slippery slope to become a drug addict, but it's not the end of the world.
No, for the unmarried guy, I agree. And I actually think, weirdly enough, that if people go in eyes open with drugs, like let's say I'm super successful and I'm 30, I go, I'm going to do heroin every day and it'll kill me in 2 years, but I'm not going to hurt anyone with drunk driving. I won't make anyone else do drugs. I don't think I have an obligation to make it to 100.
Spoken like a true libertarian.
So I think it's fine. My question is actually more for myself in the future, the people who are listening who maybe they're in that marriage, you know what I mean? And they find themselves in that tricky situation and they don't want to compromise the relationship. But I agree with you. I think most people would if they went in thinking, I'll just bank on willpower. I'll just bank on willpower while I see all my closest friends doing drugs. I'll do a little drugs, but I won't cheat. And now you're high, you're with all your closest friends, they're all cheating. It's like your willpower alone won't, I think, get the job done.
There's two ways you can protect yourself in that situation. Number one is don't take the first step. You have to realize that there is no half pregnancy when it comes to ethics and behavior like that. Like once you start, it's just too seductive. That's number one. Number two is honesty. Be honest with your partner and tell them what's going on, and they'll never let you go out. Like It's like you don't say, oh yeah, they're all such nice, because that's what you would do. You say, oh, they're such nice guys. No one, everyone will you just lie. So if you want to have an honest relationship with your partner, then tell them work its place. They're all freaking maniacs. Then you can't say, oh, honey, I'm going out with the boys tonight. She's like, I know what goes on. I'm not letting you do that.
It's almost the same piece of advice twice, because the first step, weirdly enough, is the lie. The first step is, hey, these are nice guys that are, they're all family men. And it's, if you had to tell the truth about it, you wouldn't get out the door.
Exactly. So you almost prevent. It's like you almost like put a layer of protection by letting your partner know,
by demanding that you say the truth. That's great. Yeah. I am as I hear about this, it just occurs to me that the level of judgmentalness that I have, that other people have about things that people do, is so inappropriate given the malleability of people when thrown into different environments. And you mentioned slave owners. I've often thought about what it would be like to be 16, 17 years old in Nazi Germany and they conscript you into the army. And like, are you
look like you could be a Nazi, by the way. Totally.
Look at him. If you weren't Jewish.
I'm
just, in case things go awry, we need a couple blonde Jews in there.
Right. But what I take from it is, I guess there's that phrase, I'm not a religious guy, but for the grace of God, there go I. Meaning, if I'd been in your shoes and I'd been 20 years old, I mean, is there a chance that I would have done on that? I don't think so. Like, am I in the 10%? I'm not convinced.
Especially if you have that insecurity of wanting people to like you and wanting to be popular. And all of a sudden, your bosses are older than you. They're good looking. The girls are good looking. No, this is why I asked the question. Because I think people can separate themselves in their mind in a way that I think is inaccurate. And go, I would never do that. Those people must have been monsters. And I go, well, if 90% of the firm is doing it, then there's a groupthink occurring. There's some sort of, because I love the psychology, something psychologically is occurring to turn average people into people on Quaaludes hooking up with escorts.
Let me ask you a question, though. Like, I think the problem with what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying, but the problem with the way you said it is like, but in the boardroom, what's average?
Yep.
Average is crazy. Mm-hmm. It's like, so the idea is that when you're in a society where there's certain norms of that society, that serves as your barometer for what's right and wrong.